The first question is what made me want to become a video producer, and I think I learned that after a few years after college. Actually, I was a journalism major with a focus in advertising, and what I wanted to do was make commercials, but big commercials for big brands. And I realized soon after graduating from college that, producing commercials wasn't what they had the young copywriters doing. I did animation work for a few years right after college. I worked in corporate for a little while, being a marketing communications specialist, and then I decided I wanted to produce television. I wanted to make television, so I decided to take a job at a small TV station near Rochester, and that was about 15 years ago. When I was working at the TV station, that's where I got a lot of storytelling repetition in. I was telling stories every day, multiple stories a day, and that's when I think I learned and realized that I wanted to be a video producer. So in terms of technical skills, I think the most important technical skills to learn is, the camera, learning about iris and ISO and focus and focal length and just how to work with the camera in different situations, shot composition, camera movement, all that is important. Also, lighting is another thing that is huge, and it takes a long time. I still have a lot to learn in terms of that, but there's a lot of, so that takes a while to get a handle on that. And then I would say editing is huge, and that's something that takes years to get good at and to gain efficiency and become more prolific and proficient with. So camera, editing, lighting, and then writing. I'd say writing is something that's important. I would say that's something I would recommend any video producer interested, to learn writing and learning how to write stories and tell stories with the written word, I think is important. And that's not necessarily a technical skill, obviously, but it's part of the storytelling process, and I think that's really important. In terms of classes that a high schooler should take, I would say, if you can take a photography class, even if it's still photography, that's good, because you're going to learn about iris and focus and ISO and frame rates and things. If it's a video class, if it's a photography class, you won't learn about frame rates, but now most cameras are video cameras as well as still cameras. So any class like that, I would say a writing class in high school would be beneficial, I think. But I also would say that if you're in high school and you want to learn, there's no shortage of learning opportunities for you. You can go online to YouTube and Google, and you can search for different techniques and search editing skills, basic editing, basic shot composition. You can learn all these things online. So there's no limitations in terms of when you can start learning on how to become a video producer. In terms of a college degree, I would say the most important thing is your reel to begin with. So your work samples. If I was hiring somebody, I would say, let me see your work. That'd be the first thing. In terms of an education, I'd say journalism is a good background for storytelling and for video producing. There's producing degrees you can get. There's production, degrees, film directing and things like that. So anything in those realms is going to teach you about film language, about working with a camera. And so, journalism, you can go journalism broadcast, and then that'll teach you some of those things. I'll tell you reasons why I don't recommend going into broadcast television in a little bit. But so journalism's good, even English is good, and production, video production programs are good. And even if you are somebody that doesn't have a background in this, but you have an education, I'd say if you're interested in storytelling and you want to do this, there's opportunities. And I wouldn't even say that you should not do it if you got a degree in something unrelated. I would encourage you, because if you really have a passion to do it and that's going to drive you, then I'd say, there's no reason why you can't. In terms of how long my education was, I have a 4-year degree from the University of Minnesota in journalism, and then I took a 2-year screenwriting program at a college in Minneapolis, which was very valuable to me and really taught me a lot about storytelling and really helped me understand the language of film. And then I've taken some, other additional educational classes along the way. So in terms of my journey, I studied journalism with a focus in advertising. I thought I was going to become a copywriter at an advertising agency, and then that didn't happen. And then I learned Flash animation. I did that for a few years. Decided I wanted to work in television, but wasn't prepared to move to California or New York. And so I took a job at a small TV station, and I worked there for about 5 years as a reporter and a producer, mostly as a reporter. And I told thousands of stories as a local news reporter, and that really taught me a lot about how to tell stories, how to disseminate information and gather information and then break it down into its most important elements in a short period of time with a deadline. And that really taught me a lot about storytelling. Then I left there, and then I worked at a PBS affiliate for almost 2 years, and then I learned how to tell long stories using music and graphics and animation, and so that opened up a whole world of creative possibilities for me. And then I left there, and then I've been doing corporate video for almost 10 years now. And I've worked for clients, small startup clients, individual people, and then large healthcare related organizations, and all the way in medium-sized organizations of many different kinds. And so through that process, I've learned a lot about storytelling, different types of storytelling, whether it's for fundraising, education, brand storytelling, and so that's kind of the path that I've taken. I've also done some television production work for PBS affiliate, and also some other production work for some other networks, and so now I'm continuing to do mostly corporate video and documentary style storytelling. So in terms of starting pay, this is where I get back to what I was going to mention about working in local news. The pay in local news is generally awful. When I worked in local news as a reporter 15 years ago, or 12, 13, 14 years ago, my starting wage at the TV station was about $23,000. And I don't think it's much better now. And I think it's one of those things that I think people, they don't realize, and they feel like that's not the case. They assume because you're on television you're making a lot of money, and that's not the case. There's a lot of people that want those jobs. The jobs are highly coveted, so people are willing to work for low wages. Plus, most people feel like they're gonna climb the ladder and end up being one of a few people that makes a lot of money. Because if you're working at a network, if you're working at CNN, NBC, National, I mean, you're going to make good money. So, but I don't recommend people go into local news, because their revenue streams have only been going down over time because of the internet and because of all the other channels and places that people get their information. I don't think that's going to change. So it's up to you. If you are passionate about being a journalist, which I admire, then go for it. But just know that you're not going to make money doing that, generally. In terms of advancement opportunities, it depends where you work as a video producer. If you work for a large enough organization, then there might be good opportunities to move up the chain. But that would need to be a large organization. A lot of companies don't have a full-time video person, or maybe they have one. And so that's where opportunities for freelancers like myself come in, is that we can provide that service to clients who don't have a full-time video person. If you're working in a TV station, then there's ways to go up. I talked about the problems with the TV market a few minutes ago. And then if you're trying to work in television production, so if you're trying to work on television shows that are going on the air at networks like Investigation Discovery, or some of the networks there's so many networks out there on the cable network. So if you're trying to produce something for one of those, then the path up is there's a linear path from a production assistant all the way up to a showrunner, and those positions, out in California and in New York, you've got a large community. You've got large communities of people that do that kind of work. And so if you're young and that's what you want to do, I would say go there, move out there, because that's how you're going to get that experience. And most of the production is happening in New York, Los Angeles, There's a lot of production happening in Canada and also Atlanta, Georgia. Those are all places where a lot of production work is happening. And so those are, in terms of being a producer, you're going to do video for corporations, which is what I do. You're going to be a TV journalist, or you're going to produce for, for networks, or you're going to work for a PBS station. And there's some of those in Minnesota as well. So that's another possibility. So those are some of the avenues that you can take to go up the ladder in terms of video production at taking different paths. So in terms of what the average day looks like, well, the average day, I'm editing something. I'd say that for every day that I spend filming, I probably spend 5 or more days editing that work. And so I spend more time at my computer than I spend out in the field. And I like to find a balance. I'd like to shoot 1.5 to 2 days a week and then be editing for the other, 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 days. So I'll be editing, I might be setting up a shoot, doing pre-production, calling interview contacts or scheduling a shoot or working on, if I have a shoot tomorrow, I'm definitely gonna be working on preparing the gear. So I'm checking to make sure my cameras are ready. I've got batteries that are charged. I've got, data cards that are cleared off. So there's a lot of preparation in production work. You spend a lot of time getting your gear ready if you have a shoot coming up. So there's a lot of that kind of work. I also might be writing. I could be writing a script. I could be logging interviews, putting together a story. I could be, looking for media that I don't have. Like I could be looking for short clips on the internet. I could be looking for music, which is really important, a really important part of the process as well. In terms of soft skills, I would say, the main thing is that you need to be just willing to, if you're trying to get the best results for your client and you let them know that, that's going to lend itself to your, really listening to what they need, what they're looking for, what's most important to them, what their goals are for the work. And that's the main thing. Maybe the most important thing is, if you really care about the work and they know that and you're willing to put the time in to make sure that they get what they need, then your work's going to get better and better and better. The better your work, the more opportunities you're going to get. And when you're working with your clients, you have to kind of be tuned in to what they need and what's going on with them. And you're trying to make the experience a pleasant one. Sometimes it's not fun sitting in front of a camera and answering questions. And so you're trying to make the process as positive and sort of relaxing or relaxed and casual and sort of fun as possible. And and if you're really putting forth the effort and, like I said, you really care that they're getting the best results possible, you'll be fine. And they'll see that effort and that sort of honesty coming through in your intentions and what you're hoping for their work. So I do own a business, but I'm a sole proprietor. So I look at, and I do creative services broadly. That's the work that I do. Creative services, anybody that does advertising, graphic design, video production, those kind of things are creative services. And for me, I look at those as being two possible paths you can take. One, as a sole proprietor like myself, that just I do 95% of the work. I send invoices to my clients, they pay me that way, I pay taxes, and then I have my taxes done at the end of the year. If you are somebody that wants to grow a creative services company and you want to hire employees, then they're going to do more of the work, and you're going to have to worry about things like benefits, healthcare benefits, unemployment insurance, and contracts, which are things that as an individual there's less of a need to do because I'm really connected to the work and I know, so I'm more in tune with what's happening. I still do some contracts, and some people say you should always do a contract for every project. I don't do one for every project because a lot of times they're small projects, and I trust that I'll get paid. But so I have a small business, but it's basically me providing creative services, and so I think there's that distinction to be made, and that's a question for you to ask: is what kind of creative person, what kind of video producer do you want to be? Do you want to manage other people, or do you want to be the one doing the work? I think that's an important question to ask.
you.